Well, well, well.
Well, you need to interpret those things that you heard. You can't just gloss over it.
No, but I
It's a
can't.
superstar, you know what I'm saying?
I can't. Yes.
It's a superstar.
Yes, indeed.
It's a Grammy Award winner.
Indeed.
So
And I'd like to say congratulations to you, Burna Boy. Congratulations, Nigeria. Congratulations, WizKid. You have made Nigeria proud, both of you.
Absolutely.
Grammy Award winners. Are these the first Grammy Award winners?
Well, we have had...
Yes, we had nominations.
Nominations.
But this is the first time we're having not a win, two.
Absolutely.
2 wins. Well done, guys. Of course, success has all kinds of relations, including us, so we shall claim you.
Yeah, well, interestingly, when we talk about Nigerians winning the Grammys, we've had a few who were not Nigeria-based. I don't know, is Sade Aduwana on that list? I'm not sure right now.
Sade is in Nigeria.
Yes, but it's a...
Well, okay. Nigerian in diaspora. So, anyway, on Sunday, history was made as Nigeria's music sensations Damini Ogulu, popularly known as Burna Boy, and Ayo Balogun, popularly known as WizKid, won Grammys. The self-professed African giant won the Grammy in the category of Best Global Music Album for 2020. And that album, which won the Grammy, is called Twice as Tall, while WizKid collaborated with Beyonce. I think we've spoken about that on this program. And he collaborated with Brown Skin Girl, and that earned him the Best Music Video. Wow. Nigeria on the map. Nigeria on the map. Go, guys. Go, guys. Win all those awards and bring them home.
For a second, I thought you wanted to sing.
I beg your pardon?
For a second, I thought you wanted to sing.
Me sing?
I said I thought you wanted to sing. Maybe just one of the Grammy nominees.
You don't want your ears damaged, I promise you. Well, we have 2 guests to help us look at this and maybe also talk to us about how we can produce more Burna Boys and more WizKids. Mr. Michael Ugu is CEO of Freem Digital Limited, and he was the pioneer general manager over at Sony Music Entertainment, West Africa, UK. Good morning, Michael. Remember?
Good morning. Good morning.
You remember Sony Music in those days, you know?
Absolutely.
Yes. And we also have a board member, Grammy Recording Academy, Aramide, who joins us from Maryland. Oh, she's looking at us.
Oh, she's looking at us, yes.
Good morning, Aramide.
When you say Maryland, please, it's not...
Maryland, Lagos.
Ikeja, Maryland.
It's the other one. Yes. So, Michael, these boys have put Afrobeat or Afro hip hop or...
Ladies first. It's not...
Not a bad idea.
Thank you very much,
Okay, Michael. How remiss of me, Aramide, I stand corrected.
You're a lady, so I have to put you ahead.
I should come to you first.
Thank you very much.
So these guys have put Afro music, Afro hip hop, whatever you all want to call it, they put it on the map of the world, the music map of the world. So where do you think we're going to go from here with this our music?
Is that Aramide?
Yeah.
Is that for me?
Yes, ladies first, I'm told.
Ladies
first. Okay.
I was corrected.
Okay. Okay. First of all, I want to say congratulations to the winners, Burna Boy and WizKid. It's such an amazing win for Nigeria. It's groundbreaking for us, and I think it's an inspiration for a lot of new artists of this generation in particular. And I think that from here, what these wins mean actually is that a lot of focus will now be placed on Afrobeats, although that has been happening, but winning the Grammys at this particular time will place focus on our music industry, our music, our sound, not necessarily just Afrobeats. I think our sound in general, including rap, including soul, and Afrobeats again. Like it places a lot of focus, and yeah.
Michael, how do you think this will impact musicians not only in Nigeria but all over Africa?
I think it's fantastic, right? I think it's validation for our industry. It's validation for a lot of the hard work that the independent local labels have put in. All the local players, it takes a village, right? It's these artists are at the forefront, but it takes a village. I think it shows other artists across the continent that it can be done. I mean, we've had other winners across the continent. I mean, like Yusun Odor, Angelique Kidjo and others. But I think it's great that we now have contemporary winners from Nigeria. We all know that, we're steeped in a lot of history. I believe Sikiru Adepoju, had won some years back. And others have been nominated. And, it's just great for the industry. I think like I said, it validates a lot of things. I still do think we have a lot of work to do. So, I often say that it's now that the work really starts. It never really stopped, to be honest. And awards are great for validation, but they aren't the be all and end all. I think a healthy, commercial, locally driven industry and ecosystem is paramount. And we need to keep that front and center.
Well, great thing you mentioned Sikiru Adepoju won. It was in 2009. There was also Babatunde Olatunji who won in 1991 and all of that. But in all of the categories, Aramide, it's World Music Album all the way. The 1991 win, the 2009 win, yeah, and the Burna Boy win, all in the world music category. How significant is that?
It's like I said earlier, it's groundbreaking because Burna Boy was nominated last year and he was in the same category with the likes of Angelique Kidjo that has won a couple of times, and it's very competitive because there's so many artists that a lot of people have never heard about, from other African countries or global artists, that also make amazing music. But Burna Boy, I keep saying we winning, Burna Boy and WizKid winning the Grammys is particularly significant because they are homegrown artists. They are not diaspora artists. They are not artists that were exposed to the normal structure and all that. They had to build their own and then push through all the challenges that we face in our industry here. So the fact that they are homegrown actually makes it more significant, more special. And I think that it's like I said, it's very, very inspiring. Like it means that you can achieve whatever if you believe and if you keep pushing. Yes.
Yeah, Michael, I mean, Nigerians have been nominated over the years and not many wins until, we have just reeled out the figures. But then, one of the challenges a number of people would point to, as Aramide also referenced, is the structure of music practice or music as a profession or music as an industry in Nigeria. Maybe I should even begin from there. Is music something we can see as a profession or something that we can say professional musician or it's just a vocation? Maybe you may want to speak to how significant is that in the structure of the industry. Alero began by referencing the sunny music of yesteryears, and we know what that did to the local musicians at the time. Even though we had a better structure for the music industry, not so many nominations at the time.
Yeah, agreed. I think that the most important thing is that our music has penetrated internationally. I wouldn't say it's fully mainstream yet, but I definitely think that that helped with regards to how much Burna Boy's label, which is Warner Music, pushed for him to actually get that Grammy. I mean, he works extremely hard. He had a machinery behind him. And it's not saying that you need a major label to win a Grammy, but they definitely did have structures in place. And I think back then, when Sony were initially in the market, we know that they left the market because of the fact that there was a lack of structure, there was piracy. This is pre-digital when everything was physical. So yeah, I think that it is important to have a structure, but more important is the work ethic. And going to your question about whether it's a vocation or a profession, I mean, it's definitely a profession. I was an investment banker years ago, over a decade ago, and I've been in the music industry for the last 10 to 15 years or so. And I've seen the industry grow in leaps and bounds. I've seen how it's actually been a massive employer of labor, and it's been professionalized compared to 10, 15 years ago. We're seeing local companies grow, local companies become better capitalized, local companies actually leverage on the digital opportunity to drive local businesses. They're employing local people who are becoming professionals in their own right. I'm talking about music executives across the board. So yes, when I said ecosystem, the artists are at the forefront, and they're the ones who do a lot of the work from the creative aspects. But without the teams building these artists and building these narratives, nothing can actually happen. So yeah, even though the major labels are known as, these great structures, I think that we've been able to actually see some great local structures, from, the Mavens is a pretty solid structure now. YBNL is a pretty solid structure. A few of the big local labels are doing pretty well, putting out newer artists, actually amplifying their sound across the world. And you have the distributors like my company, Freemi Digital, which is one of the biggest label services companies in Africa. We employ over 45 people. And, if music wasn't a profession or it wasn't an actual real business, we wouldn't be able to employ and pay people and actually continue to push artists to the world.
Okay. Aramide, when we come back from this break, how can we exploit this to the fullest? Welcome back. Aramide, I did say before we went on that break that I would come to you with this question. So now we have made it onto the international stage. How can we exploit this to the fullest? Nigeria abounds in talent. We need to push them, don't we?
Yeah. One thing I think that this has definitely created is visibility in our music and the path of our music. And one way I think that we can exploit this is by creating partnerships, by going into partnerships with different artists, because that definitely increases the number of streams for artists. For instance, a typical example would definitely be Davido being in coming to America and performing. His music was there. I think that's also a very, very huge a very huge platform to showcase African music, Afrobeats in particular. So partnerships, licensing, publishing, more collaborations, more features. And then in terms of partnership, it has to be very strategic and just basically consistency. Artists need to stay true to their sound. And what else? The artists that have won, Burna Boy, WizKid, that have been on this platform need to bring other people in. That's very, very, very important for them to bring other people in.
Aramide, let me stay with you for a bit.
Okay.
Perhaps we need to be more strategic in our strategy. if I can go that way, I'll tell you why. King Sunny Ade was
Right.
also featured in a few, one or two movies of Western origin, of American origin, actually.
Yes.
Yes. And we have had a number of other Nigerian musicians who have performed on stage like that,
Yes.
So over the years. So that's to say, It is not that we are not known out there. So I'm trying to expatiate on Alero's question, and perhaps it's now to be more specific about the strategy that we need to embark upon to exploit. I can feel, I can sense Michael also engine to put mouth for this matter, but let's stay with you, Aramido, for a bit. If we are to exploit this, we have had collaborations. Even in music, what's his name now? D'banj and a number of other global and Nigerian artists like that have collaborated with other musicians from different parts of the world, Africa, Europe, the Americas, and all. So, what strategy do we need to embark upon to really exploit so that the attention really comes to Africa and we take full advantage, so to speak?
First of all, to exploit whatever is going on right now, you need to be strategic. I already mentioned that earlier. And for instance, I'm going to give an example with what Burna Boy did on his album. He had international executive producers like Diddy. Diddy was an executive producer on Burna Boy's album. That's huge. That's major. You know, I don't know. I think people just need to be consistent. I don't know.
Michael, you want to take it on?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, to me, I think we have to look at this from the reverse, actually. You know, it's great that we have one or two artists, because we have to remember that the artists penetrating internationally, the cream of the crop, for all intents and purposes, those artists will not necessarily grow the wider industry. I think we have to look more at home, right? I think that, you know, when it comes to things like touring, when it comes to things like merch, we need to look at home. I think when it comes to building the audience, we need to look at home. You know, a music market and an industry is as valuable as its home market. You know, all these opportunities that Burna Boy, WizKid, and Davido get, they're export opportunities. You know, in a typical country, you look at what's the industry like at home. The US is the most valuable music market in the world because its home market is strong. Yes, its artists tour the globe, but those are export opportunities. When you see French Montana in Dubai, 50 Cent in Paris, those are export opportunities. But they're real opportunities, and where they see the most growth is at home. So I think that, you know, having been in the industry for a long time, you know, I've seen a lot of music services come into the country, you know, and a lot of them are doing a decent job, both the local and international one. I think it's about changing our culture to consume more content in legally licensed streaming, on legally licensed streaming services. You know, buy tickets to events, buy artist merchandise. You know, we have this massive market. And though, yes, not our entire population is the addressable market, we do have a sufficient population to be able to create a local burgeoning industry. So I think that, you know, for me, it does come back to what is our local audience saying? What are they buying? What are they consuming? How big are our local companies growing? You know, how are we actually able to go out and challenge the world using our local labels and local label services and local distribution companies? That's where we get the respect from. That's
Michael,
how we leverage
the challenge isn't what you're talking about. People listen to music, people want to get music at any cost, but you just referenced, albeit slightly, on the sources, how people get these songs. You know, these songs are always streamed. How do the huge population that loves music will get the music at any cost if they can, that is also heavily impoverished? How do they, you know, get the service of this music industry that they cannot afford, you know? And then add that to the fact that in this day and age, not much is said about, you know, buying CDs or records anymore or cassettes. All of that is gone. That employment or consumption from that angle is all gone. It's now to download and put it on your phone or some you know, music listening device and all of that. So, how do we grow the home market when these other avenues are kind of shut down?
No, they're not actually shut down. So, you know, I've been in this game for a while, and, you know, year on year, we've seen consistent growth with regard to Nigerian music consumption, right? Now, 10 years ago, definitely, it was a focus on diaspora, even up until a couple of years ago, even up until today. if you're a music company in Nigeria, the diaspora market is quite important. But we are seeing the local market consume more and more as we're seeing services become more aggressive. I mean, locally, we have services like MTN Music Time. Years ago, we had iRocking and Spinlet. We're seeing the international players like Deezer, Spotify, Apple Music come into the market and compete more for actual listening time, right? And I think the key thing has been the price points over the years. You know, some of the price points to get access to some of these music services are much cheaper in Nigeria than in other countries. So I think if we look at the numbers and look at the data, I think there's been a massive improvement. But it does take a culture change. It does take respect for IP. It does take, you know, building a local fan base and people actually saying, look, I'm a super fan. I want to buy a Burna t-shirt. I'm a super fan. I want to pay Spotify a monthly subscription to consume his music. You know, there's a lot of variables that go into actually driving and growing these services. But I definitely think we're seeing a positive increase in the number of paying subscribers and the propensity to actually, you know, download a music service and consume that, because it's easier than downloading from a funny blog or a funny music website, getting a virus on your phone. I do see that, you know, I'm looking at these numbers analytically on a day in, day out basis, and there has been a massive improvement. And things like Burna Boy winning the Grammy are actually great because, like I said, it validates the market. It puts more ears and eyeballs into the market. Some of the bigger music services are now like, okay, fine, we need to uncover another Burna Boy. We need to uncover another WizKid. We need to uncover another Davido. Because, you know, if you look at international markets, like the China market is a huge market. The Indian market is a huge market. But our sound is actually massively influential on the global stage. Beyonce has done albums that are Afrobeat influence. French Montana, Drake, Sway Lee, the list goes on, right? You don't see that same influence from, you know, music out of India and China. No offense to the market, great, huge markets, bigger than ours, but our sound is massively influential. So I think it's about converting that into how we grow our homegrown industry. Homegrown is massively important because that's how we stay sustainable. That's how we continue to employ people. And that's how we actually derive the vast majority of the benefit of these are artists, you know, back home. The international labels, they're great, but they will not reinvest back home. You know, we invest at home. Other distributors, other label services, other local indies reinvest this money back into the local artists, and we find the diamonds in the dirt and we take that to the world. So yeah, I do think we have a lot of work to do, but homegrown for me is where we just need to keep the focus.
You didn't add Janet Jackson to that list. Did a song recently made for more and had gone and even spoke Yoruba in the song. Come on.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Aramide, you are a board member of the Grammy Recording Academy. In real terms, what does that mean?
It means that I get to sit down in a room with a bunch of other people and make decisions that concerns the chapter in Washington, D.C. The Grammy chapter.
Tell us about the process through which these artists emerged.
That you mean like the nominations?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what actually happens is if you have an album within the particular year of review, you submit the album through a member. A member can be an individual or a company that's a record label or a publishing company. You know, you submit it and then it's reviewed by the committee, a bigger committee. And then the list is shortlisted into consideration category. That list is always really, really huge. And then from there, there's also a subcommittee that sits down on each genre to pick the nominees.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's interesting, Aramide. But let me go back to Michael, because maybe I'm beginning to get interested in the business part of this. You know, because it's show business. It's a lot of attention on the show, not so much on the business. And no, this is to Michael. So there's a lot of attention to the show and not so much to the business. And you say things are improving, you know, gradually now. But something a number of people continue to reference is the infrastructure that supports investment in any business, and show business no less. What are the infrastructural deficits that you think will help Nigeria to do better, to be able to exploit the opportunities that these young men have created for generations to come?
There, if you have all day, I can probably give you a long list. But in summary, infrastructure in terms of venue infrastructure is lacking. Probably actually number one on the list is just simply capital, right? A major label or a big music corporation is essentially an investment bank for the music industry, right? They take the risk the same way an investment bank or a VC or a private equity firm will take, a risk on a high risk company, is the same way that a major label will take a risk on a potentially high risk new artist they need to break out. So I think access to capital, affordable capital, and I think what we find in Nigeria is that we don't have affordable capital. Even some of the more organized music companies, my company is at least 6 years audited, right? We've won grants from the World Bank. Even to secure a loan from our local retail banks is really hard, right? We built one of Nigeria's biggest production facilities in Lekki and Lagos. We sought local bank funding. We didn't get it. We had to raise the money privately to build that out, right? Even though we had books in order, even though we were audited, even though we've paid our taxes, everything, it was still ridiculously hard. I think access to affordable capital is massively important. Once we get that
Michael.
access to affordable capital,
just a moment. On that, Michael, what do you think makes it difficult for banks to see the upside of that investment? Is there a challenge to communicating the profit end to any investor?
I don't think so. I think in the bank's very essence, I guess they'll be focused on the least risk, most profitable projects. So from a commercial perspective, I get it, right? You're focused on the bottom line. I think that historically, some of the local labels in the industry hasn't had such a good record, especially with regards to transparency and actually organizing their books and actually showing some kind of structure. So yeah, if I'm a bank MD or a bank manager, I may frown and say, okay, look, this looks a bit risky. I'd rather not, right? Because they have to report to somebody and ultimately report to shareholders. So I think that even if it's not banks, there should be other higher risk players like local private equity companies who are more interested in the space and who are willing to actually, provide capital at a much cheaper base. I think one of the difficulties is general cost of capital locally. But I think if that is unlocked, then the opportunities are then immense.
Michael, let me take you somewhere where I know that there's been interventions, or should I say, conversations between the industry, the entertainment industry, and government. How do you think that these wins are going to influence government such that they're prepared to actually support the industry more than they have been seen to have done?
If wishes were horses, right? I think that, a lot would happen, but, the creative sector is definitely not a priority sector for the government. I've been in Abuja, I've met with several government officials, and yes, we've been involved in, several, talking about our projects and what we're working on, but a lot of it does come down to, them, it becoming a talking shop. I don't know how much these wins will actually push, our officials to then take the industry seriously. I'm really not sure. I can't say. And even if they do, it may just be a short-term, burst of, okay, let's do this, that, or the third, nothing really long-term. And I think that ultimately that does affect the conduciveness of our local industry. We do need to create that conducive factor. Now, players are looking at the opportunities, private sector players. But again, I think it's a responsibility of government to create that conducive environment. I believe that there's been a copyright review that's been sitting with the House of Rep or House of Senate for years, right? And it's that kind of review that actually revalues local IP and how we enforce the protection of that IP that I think, needs to be now pushed through government. If we get simple, quick wins like that, then that would be great, right? It's a start. We've had several meetings with John Asia and the DG of the NCC. And yes, they do have a lot of interest in pushing the sector forward, but, it all goes back to what's happening at the top. It does become political. And, some of us in the industry don't have that stomach for all that politics, and we just rather focus on our businesses and continue to drive them. So hopefully something happens, but it's just hope, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure many people like you, don't have the stomach for that politics. But um, by way, okay, looking at it from the business end, Michael, I'm staying with you because it's business and you seem to be in the business of show. Looking at it from an economic perspective and opportunities for creating employment, if you were to speculate, what value would you place on Nigeria's music industry?
When you say value, are we talking about US dollar value?
Value, whichever one it.
Well, I mean, one of the biggest difficulties with actually, allocating value would be access to data, right? Now, I've read all the PwC reports. I've seen different, metrics such as, $80 million, $100 million, industry valuations. And, we're not sure, right? Because, unless we see, core numbers from some of the services across the board, the telcos across the board, from that data perspective, I'm not sure. But I think in terms of value, it's a very valuable industry when it comes to employing labor, right? You don't need a degree to work in the music industry. Maybe you need an oil and gas degree to work in, Enyo or one of these oil and gas companies, or you need an economics degree to work in UBA, right? But to work in the creative industry, you just need the passion. And I think we have a massive youth population that is passionate and that are massively creative. And for me, that's massively valuable, right? There's some things you just can't compute or quantify. And I think that if we actually look at that opportunity, we can potentially diffuse a lot of the potential risks we're seeing emanating from the youth segment of our population, who are actually massively underemployed and unemployed, right? Idle, and we know that's a keg for all kinds of different, social ills. So I think that this sector alone, even if you're not looking at the US dollar value, you have to look at the safety value of actually getting people into work, getting people active and getting people trained. I've trained a lot of young music execs over the years who weren't initially music execs, who may not have had degrees, who may not have gone to, overseas universities, but had the passion and the determination to learn in this industry. And they've gone on to do great things. They've stayed with me for some years and they've moved forward. And I think that that's what we have to really look at. Okay. And it will be there will be a massive reduction in youth unemployment if we are doing a lot more in the creative sector. So that's value for me.
Okay. Well, Aramide, as Michael has said, so many people are now going to be looking in the direction of Nigeria, of Africa. Who's going to be the next Burna Boy? Who's the next WizKid? Who's the next Davido? If you're going to give clues, to people what to look out for, one of the things you said the other time is that people need to be consistent. What other things should musicians need to do to get the eye of the world and be sustainable?
Sorry, before I answer this question, I'm going to add something to the question that was asked earlier on about how people can get nominated. I forgot to add this. Only voting members of the Academy can vote for a nominated candidate. Like if an artist is nominated, only members that are registered as voting members can vote. So it's not open to the general public at all. Yeah, so back to your question. What I think can happen is, what I think can be done is, like I said, consistency. People need to be consistent to be like Burna Boy. Burna Boy is a very consistent artist. Even when nobody was paying attention to him after his first album, he kept putting out music. When his album, the album that had the Yay song, when it became huge, when attention was drawn to Burna Boy, I checked Burna Boy's catalog. I saw that he had already dropped like 3 albums after the first album, and then people started to pay attention. So consistency is always key, and then staying true to your sound. Burna Boy has always sounded like Burna Boy. He doesn't try to waver. He doesn't try to sound like the new trend or trying to sound like, oh, I need to switch up. Even when he switches up, it sounds like there's a growth. It sounds like you can still tell that this artist knows exactly where he's headed to, even when something new is added, And then to get to that level, you probably need some key collaborations from record labels, international record deals. There are different types of international record deals. There are some that work and there are some that don't work. There are some deals that you should sign. There are some deals that you should not even get close to. And then a typical example of also a collaborative album, like Michael said, is the album that Beyonce did, the Gift album. It featured a lot of African artists. It exposed our sound, and I think that the more we have more of these things, the more the market opens, the more space, the more discovery would have of other artists. A lot of other artists will be discovered. A lot of other artists will be brought under the umbrella. So it's still brings us back to strategic partnerships and alliances.
Strategic partner and alliance, that's what we need. I think that's a good place to leave it this morning. Once again, congratulations to our Grammy winners, Burna Boy and WizKid, and congratulations to Nigeria. And Aramide and Michael, just keep working hard. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Aramide is a board member, Grammy Recording Academy, who joined us virtually from the United States, and Michael Ugu, CEO of Freem Digital Limited and former pioneer and general Sorry? Free Me.
Free me.
Oh, free me.
Let me go.
Oh,
Yes. Let
free
us go.
me.
Free me.
Oh, Guano. Free Me Digital Limited, and is the pioneer general manager, Sony Music Entertainment West Africa. Thank you very much for joining us this beautiful Saturday morning, this very happy day on which we make it known to the world that ours have won the Grammys.
Yes.
We'll be right back with the home stretch in just a moment. Do stay with us.